Hello everyone. So myself and Andy, we're gonna talk to you about EU digital identity wallets that already been mentioned a couple of times earlier today. And we'll talk how they're gonna impact businesses across the EU. But not only that, also what kind of new opportunities they will bring to our daily life as well as citizens and residents of the EU. And just before I start, a very quick temperature check. Who here in the room has already attended the talks either by Marie Wallace or by Hakan and Bjorn earlier today? Raise of hands. Okay, good 40-50%. Okay, so some of you are really becoming decentralized identity experts by now. Perfect. So let's start with a couple of quick intros, right? So my name is Kotryna Urbanaite. I am part of Accenture's global digital identity innovations team. I am mostly focusing on the opportunities in the European Union and currently overseeing this eIDAS or EU Digital Identity Wallets offering. I'm based in London, but as you might be able to tell from my name and my accent, I'm not English. I'm from Lithuania originally. So as an EU citizen, I'm also personally very excited about the topic we're going to talk about, since I'm hoping to have that EU Digital Identity Wallet in my own hands in a couple of years as well.
Thanks, Kotryna. And my name's Andy Tobin. I work for a company called Gen. You may not have heard of Gen, but you'd have heard of Norton and Avast, who merged together to form this new company called Gen. So it's the world's biggest cybersecurity company. And my prior experience, I work for a small startup called Evanim. And Evanim really kicks off this decentralized identity world. And we invented a lot of the technology that was described earlier on. So for Gen, I look after our excellent relationship with Accenture. I also look after all of our eIDAS activities as well and our product strategy in this digital trust services space.
Thanks, Andy. So I would like to start with a personal anecdote that will also hopefully will illustrate why decentralized identity is important and how it can help us in our everyday life. So I am going to Ghana at the end of this month. Very, very excited. If you have any recommendations, please come to me after. So, of course, to enter Ghana, I need a visa. And in London, visa can be issued by Ghana High Commission. In order to issue me a visa, Ghana High Commission, of course, needs to check a lot of different information relating to my travel, relating to me as an individual, and so on and so forth. For instance, on their portal, I had to upload a yellow fever vaccination certificate. A yellow fever vaccination certificate is a small yellow booklet. You can get it in any pharmacy in the UK. It's a piece of paper, no digital version. I had to take a picture of it, upload it to the portal. Almost accidentally uploaded my boyfriend's one. Very confusing. I had to upload my hotel reservation and itinerary because Ghana High Commission needed to know where exactly am I staying, when I'm entering the country and when I'm leaving the country. Had to find the right emails and reservations in my mailbox, save them in the right format, upload it to the portal. And with that, I was uploading not only the information that they actually required, but everything to do with that reservation, including how much I paid for my hotel or my flights, which is not something the Ghana High Commission actually needs to know, right? Had to upload a picture of myself. Took a selfie. Took me maybe 5 attempts to ensure that it's saved in the right format and it's of the right size. Once again, time-consuming, very, very inconvenient. Signature, no way to sign digitally. I had to sign a piece of paper, take a picture of that paper, upload it to the portal. And finally, they of course needed this, the travel document, the passport, right? Physical passport. And the thing is that the visa processing can take up to 3 weeks, maybe even longer. And I couldn't go without my passport for this long because I wanted to be here with you all in Open Slava. So I needed it. So not only this process was very, very time-consuming and confusing, it also ended up being very costly because I had to pay for an expedite visa service that was very, very pricey so that I could have my passport back. Similarly, for have a guy commission this process is not ideal either. So they need to gather all of this documentation that comes in different formats, and then they need to invest time and resources to check it, to ensure that it's actually legitimate, and I'm not lying about myself. And I'm sure you all have similar anecdotes of going through various processes in life. Would it be opening a bank account, getting residency card, going through a background check where you need to gather, scan, collect all sorts of different documents, upload them to various portals, and then wait for them to be checked. Very inefficient processes. So now imagine if instead of having to deal with different documents in different formats, I had something like this. And some of you already seen similar pictures in Marie's, Bjorn's Hakan's presentations. It's an identity wallet. It's basically a secure place on my personal device where I would be able to store all that different information as verifiable digital credentials, as interoperable pieces of information that I can seamlessly share with the Ghana High Commission in this case. And they are able to instantly verify that information and trust that information. What is more, imagine I would be able to share only the information that is actually required. So coming back to the example of itineraries and flights, I only could share my flight dates and my hotel reservation and where it is without revealing the rest of the information, such as how much I paid for those reservations. Now, the good news for us here in the EU is that the European Union has been trying to get us closer to this vision, to this ideal world, for quite a few years now. Back in 2014, eIDAS regulation was created, and it came into effect in 2016. It basically introduced the legal framework for EU-wide interoperability of electronic identity solutions. eIDAS stands for Electronic Identity Authentication and Trust Services. So it covers all of these things. And ever since then, multiple eID schemes emerged across Europe, and you see some of the examples on the map here. And the initial vision was that every EU citizen and resident would be equipped with a eID means that they could use not only to access services in their own country, but also travel abroad and use the same eID means to access services abroad. So for instance, if you had a Slovak eID, you, in theory, should be able to go to Germany and access certain services in Germany using the same eID, and they would be able to trust it. Well, in reality, that wasn't quite the case. Original eIDAS had quite a few limitations. For instance, the member states interpreted the regulation in different ways that ended up in certain differences in how it was implemented, hence hindering this cross-border interoperability that we all wanted. The adoption in private sector was very, very low, and that hindered the utility of this whole system. Because if the eID means only allows me to access some government services that I need once every 5 years, I probably won't even bother getting it, right? I would get it if it was actually useful for me, if it's something that I could use most days with various services, public and private. And finally, why it was quite successful when it came to digital signatures. So it introduced, as I said, that legal framework of digital signature recognition, meaning that your qualified digital signature had as much legal value as a handwritten signature. That was great. The other trust services did not see as much adoption. So, recognizing the original eIDAS limitations, in summer 2021, European Commission proposed a revision to this regulation, proposing a trusted and secure digital identity for all Europeans. So, what did that revision say? If I had to summarize it to 3 key points of what it's trying to give us and deliver us, it would be strengthening the national eIDs. So the example that I talked about, establishing eID means that I can actually use for all public services and some private services, or most private services in my own country, but also travel abroad and know that I can actually use the same eID means to access services anywhere else in the European Union. So ensuring this mutual recognition of national schemes. User control, very, very important point in the regulation. Commission really wanted to ensure that we as European citizens have more control of our private data. And that's where this concept of EU digital identity wallet comes into place. And we're going to talk about it a bit more in a second. And finally, private sector engagement. Just like I said, it was a huge gap in the original eIDAS. So the Commission wanted to ensure that the revision makes sure that private sector is not only mandated, but also has incentives to participate in this eIDAS 2 digital identity and trust services ecosystem. So what is happening today? It is becoming real. There are large-scale pilots happening. The legislation is being finalized. The architecture framework is being finalized. There is reference implementation being built. And once the regulation is adopted, member states will have 2 years to start issuing EU digital identity wallets to all citizens, if they want to use one. Of course, the usage is not mandated, but the issuance for the governments is. So if we are hoping that regulation will come into effect later this year, maybe early 2024, but at some point 2026, we should have that wallet in our hands. And this is how it could look like. This is how such a wallet could look like. So as said, in such a wallet, I could store all sorts of personal information, not only identity documents like my personal IDs, mobile driving licenses, visas, but also medical records, tax ID, or it could be documents that don't really hold any identity data about me, such as travel tickets or loyalty cards. And the idea is that a wide variety of issuers could participate in this ecosystem. So public and private organizations being able to issue those credentials into my wallet. And then I could take it once again to private and public organizations across the whole of European Union and share the data that they require to access their goods or services. I also mentioned privacy and security. It's very important. So some privacy preserving features will be enabled, such as selective disclosure. Selected disclosure, just like in my coming back to my visa example, means only sharing the data that is actually required and not the whole document, right? If I'm in a supermarket trying to get a bottle of wine, they don't actually need to know what's my name and my surname and what is my, when is my birthday. All they need to know is that I'm over 18 or over 21 or whatever is the legal age of drinking, and I'm allowed to buy that bottle of wine. So that is selected disclosure, only sharing the data that you actually need. So yeah, with a wallet like that, in the future, hopefully, if you get a diploma from this university in Slovakia, you will be able to go, say, move to Germany and prove to your future employer in Germany that you actually graduated from this university with a certain degree and a certain grade, very, very seamlessly without that employer needing to call back to your university to check whether you did, because the information coming from this wallet would be trusted. And as said, a lot of, there are multiple streams happening already, making these wallets reality. Architecture reference framework is creating the common standards and specifications guidelines, so making sure that these wallets across the EU will look the UX UI might be different, but in the backend they are the same and they can interoperate. There are 4 large-scale pilots with dozens and dozens of public and private organizations piloting various use cases with such wallets, starting with travel and payments and ending with registering eSIM card or bank opening. And finally, a reference implementation is also being built. And that reference implementation for this wallet will also be open source, so available for everyone to use. And with that, I will hand over to Andy, who will talk about what should businesses know.
Thanks very much, Kotryna. Excellent. So that's a really good intro to this world of eIDAS that's attracting a lot of attention, much more attention than the first version did, actually, because the first version was really just for use with governments, but now they're opening up for use in the private sector as well. It's getting a lot more interest. So the question is, what do you do? If you're an organization, how do you look at this eIDAS stuff and decide what your part in it is going to be? So I've got a 6-step plan for you here, or 6 steps that you can follow to just work out where you should position yourselves and what actions you need to take. So the first step is this one. It's work out where you are on this chart. So you've got 2 axes there. You've got the forced adoption of eIDAS due to regulatory enforcement. Okay, you must do this. And there are some industries that will be forced to accept eIDAS wallets, whether they like it or not. So those industries that rely on strong customer authentication, for example. And the other axis is the business opportunity. Have you got a massive business opportunity or not? And you can place yourself on this graph. So if you've got a huge regulatory enforcement but no business opportunity, obviously do the least you possibly can for the lowest cost to satisfy the regulation. If you're seeing a huge business opportunity, and we'll come on to what that might look like in a moment, then you want to move really, really fast and not necessarily wait for all the regulation to happen in 2 years and then governments to issue wallets. You get going now so you can take advantage of that business opportunity as quickly as possible. And you might be somewhere in the middle where you've got to get a balance right. Now, it's worth pointing out there's a lot of unknowns with eIDAS right now. The reference wallet that's being created, this open source wallet, the specification for it is not yet finalized. They're trying to write the technical spec for the wallet before the regulation is fully final. And that's very difficult because the regulation is the requirement set for the wallet. So there's a lot of things happening in parallel. There are these pilots running at the moment. And a lot of the organizations involved in these large-scale pilots, we're in one, you're in 2. A lot of the organizations are in there to work out this. What do we do? So we're getting 50% funded by the European Commission, who are funding these pilots to half of the cost, and we're footing the rest of the bill. So that's step 1. Step 2 is to work out your place in the ecosystem. And when I say ecosystem, this is the ecosystem of issuers, holders, verifiers, trust service providers, infrastructure providers. Where do you want to play in this ecosystem of digital credentials? And it's important to point out this is not just about identity, although it's eIDAS, right? It's about now credentials, digital credentials, and how they can be used for all sorts of things. And these eIDAS wallets, hopefully, the promise is that you can put any credential in there for any purpose. You could put in a gym membership, you could put in your little card for accessing this conference, you could put in a boarding pass for an airline, you could put in a passport. Okay? So any organization should be able to issue any credential for any purpose into this wallet. So suddenly everyone in Europe has got access to a really secure digital wallet, and any organization can put anything in there you want. So the use cases are infinite here. And I guess part of Accenture's job is to help people like you work your way through those use cases. And I understand they're very reasonably priced as well, Accenture at the moment. But let's split this into 3 pieces, right? We've got issuers, holders, and verifiers. So for issuers, do you issue physical credentials? The conference organizers here issue physical credentials in the term of the little lanyard, the little tickets on. And in fact, I got 2 credentials. I got a little free lunch tag as well with this speaker one. So if you issue physical credentials, why not issue a digital credential every time you issue a physical one? And what's involved in doing that? Are there new types of credential that you could issue that you couldn't do before? Now it's digital. You don't have to be in person. You could just issue things digitally. Who in your ecosystem, your customers, and where they use this data, who's involved in using that data that you might issue? So an airline boarding pass. The boarding pass is used in duty free. It's used in the airline lounge, etc., etc. And what data do they want? So you need to determine if you're going to be an issuer and what you're going to issue and why. In the middle is the wallet. The holder gets a wallet. The wallet is an app on a phone, or it could be a cloud-based wallet that you access through a browser. So are you going to build a wallet? Are you going to be one of the hundreds of tech organizations that are all going to build wallets? Are you going to embed wallet functionality in your own app? Now, with eIDAS, these wallets are going to be quite tightly controlled and certified. So you're going to have to go through certification processes for your wallet to become an eIDAS wallet. And why is that important? Governments won't issue credentials into non-certified wallets. Okay. On the verifier side, is your organization one that receives data? Like Marie said earlier, have you got too much data? What about a situation where the data was so easy to request and obtain and verify that you don't need to hold it, because you can just ask for the data whenever you need it and get it on demand? So what data do you need to run your business? Who issues that data? Why not go and have a chat to them and say, hey, can you issue this digitally instead? So you need to work out where you're going to play here, in which of these three, or in all of the three. Step 3, work out your competitor, or your competitor impact, the impact of your competitors on you as well. So just to give you a scenario, if it is, if it's umpteen times, 4 times faster for me as a bank to onboard a new customer who comes with all of their data verifiable and digital, and they just go, here it is, and I receive it and I can verify it's all authentic. I don't have to do loads of expensive checks with credit reference agencies and all of that kind of thing. If I can get that and onboard that customer 4 times faster than my competitor, or 10 times faster, or if it's an employer, 4 weeks or something, to what Marie was saying, 4 weeks to get onboarded into Accenture, what if that was 10 seconds? There's a really good use case. There was a question earlier on in the previous session about, is this technology working anywhere? One of the biggest reference installations is the NHS England, National Health Service England, and they're using it for staff ID. And they changed, they got the doctor onboarding process from 4 weeks to 10 seconds. Okay? Imagine that in a competitor scenario. Let's say you're a bank, you can onboard a customer 10 times quicker than all the other banks can. So that's a pretty big business incentive. And the other way around, if your competitors were doing that and you weren't, you're going to be out of business pretty quick. So understand what your competitors might do. Step 4, all about digital signing and authentication. So we've got this, there's a lot of noise about digital credentials and digital wallets, and I've got a credential for this and a boarding pass, and I can go to Ghana, etc., etc. Interesting choice, Ghana. But these wallets are going to also be able to do digital signing, and they're going to be able to do digital signing with legally binding contracts. So you'll be able to buy a house and sign the contract with your eIDAS wallet. Okay? That's quite a significant thing. Often it's very difficult to do all the paperwork to sign stuff and, send wet signatures with documents from A to B, etc. You'll be able to do that digitally. So think of how that could impact your business. If you've got new customers coming on, you need to sign them up for a credit agreement or whatever it might be. Authentication is the other one, often overlooked. This is login. This is passwords. Usernames and passwords could disappear with this kind of capability, right? You can log in with your eIDAS wallet, and not just log in, but log in with multi-factor authentication, because to open your wallet, you've got to identify yourself to the wallet. It's one factor. So you've got the phone, you've got your face or your fingerprint, whatever else. But you've also got a credential that the organization can have issued to you that you can prove back that I'm a customer. So you get multi-factor authentication as well. They're free, right? Because somebody's building the wallets out there, and there's no charge to the citizen to use them. Which brings me on to this, where's the money? So where is the money with all this? There's all these organizations working on these pilot projects at the moment, hoping that there's massive multi-million dollars or euros of revenue in there for them. But we don't know. There's been a lot of focus on the technical model and the legal framework and legislation. There's been little to no focus on the economic model. Okay? One of my tasks actually within the pilot we're in is writing an economic model that's going to work. So that'll take like a day or two to get that sorted. But yeah, just an example here, getting the incentives aligned. I was speaking to a large airline recently, and we were saying, well, come on, let's get you involved in our pilot. And they're saying, look, we've got so much we already need to do. Our work stack is so full, and doing a pilot and integrating a digital wallet acceptance at a boarding gate in an airport costs us millions. Okay? That's just to do a pilot. So you've got to think for yourselves and organisations getting involved in this. Why would they do it? What's the incentive for them to do it? Is it worthwhile? And if they've got a work stack that's already full, how does this get priority? So the incentives have to be right. And this is one area that, if anything, is going to be one that catches out eIDAS, because the incentives aren't sufficient or they're not clear enough. And number 6, user, customer, citizen education. At the moment, some of you are hearing about eIDAS for the first time. I can see you're all riveted and amazingly excited about the whole thing. You're going to leap out there and demand from your government, where is my eIDAS wallet? And they're going to say, what? So there's not very many people who know about this, but for sure, once the legislation gets approved, there's then this 2-year period for member states to adopt it. And during that 2-year period, and as it ramps up to wallets being available, there's going to be a lot of noise coming out of governments about it. Now, in some countries, that will be great because people trust their governments. And in other countries, there's a distinct lack of trust in their governments. People say, I don't want this from here. So there's going to be a lot of education needed for citizens, customers, and so on. And in those industries that are going to be regulated and have to accept these wallets, if somebody comes up with one of them, the customers of those organisations will need to know about it. Also, I think this needs to be seen as a really positive move. It's not like GDPR and the cookie law, which is reduced to just really, really annoying you every time you go to a website. Here's something that actually transform our lives and make it much easier and more private and more secure for us to do stuff online, right? And if it's promoted in that way, I think it's going to be very, very different to, here's a new EU regulation, etc. So there we go, 6 tasks to proceed with. There they all are. I'm sure you're noting these down. This is just to start off with. There's a lot more, obviously, on what technology you could use, how that could work, what would a wallet interface look like, etc., etc. But these are the first 6 things, I think, for you to think. Kotryna, back to you. I think we go to questions. I think we're done. I think we're done for now. We'll go to questions. We can have some applause. Let's see if we have any questions. Should we go around? Shall I MC and you can do the first one? You can answer the first one. Is that fair?
Sure.
Where is the data going to be stored? Cloud, or are you going to use, for example, some hash verification algorithm that would run on user devices and store all the data there?
Right. So I think Marie talked about it quite extensively as well. So the data, of course, is with the issuer. So the organization that gives you information in the first place, of course, has that information. And then it will be stored also on your wallet, so on your private device, either on device or a web-based wallet. But it will be in your full control and not in some sort of centralized database somewhere else. Yeah,
there's there's 3 types of wallet, essentially. There's an edge wallet, where all the data and the keys are on your phone. There's a hybrid wallet, where the keys and some data is on your phone and the rest is in a cloud, someone else's data center. And then there's a cloud wallet, where you may just have a single master key on your phone and everything else is in the cloud. So the question is, whose cloud is it?
Okay, what happens when I lose my keys wallet? How would I recover them? What if all the credentials are already digital and I have no physical copies? How would I prove it's me when asking for new ones?
Right, this question always gets asked, and it's an excellent question. So whoever asked this, very good. There's quite a few different answers to this. Answer number 1 is what happens when you lose your physical credentials now? Okay, So if you're in a fully decentralized situation, you've got an edge wallet, the keys are on your phone, the credentials are on your phone, and you lose your phone, and you haven't got any backup because you don't trust anyone to hold your backup for you, what do you do? Well, it's the same as if you lose one of these. You have to go and get them again. Okay? That's the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is no worse than current physical credentials. However, because it's digital, you can back it up. So backup is actually the easy bit. You select somewhere to back it up to, and there's some kind of security wrapper around it, and it's probably okay. Right? The difficult bit is recovery. So I want to make sure that Kotryna doesn't recover my wallet and pretend to be me. And difficult, but often do stuff in my name and sign up for bank accounts and credit cards and that kind of thing. So recovery is the hard bit. You need to make sure it's the right person recovering the data. So I don't have a problem with the whole backing up your wallet somewhere, but the recovery bit needs to be handled really carefully.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. So,
I'll ask you this one.
Okay, let's do it.
Where are these 4 pilots?
Where are
the EU wallet running?
Where are these pilots? So pretty much every single EU member state, plus some non-EU member states. So Ukraine and Norway. Anyone else from outside the EU? Ukraine and Norway for sure.
Yeah, there's possibly even larger reach, like out to Canada and beyond. But
yeah,
pretty much every member state.
But yeah, pretty much every member state, and quite a few of the member states are participating, not in 1, not in 2, but in 3 or even 4 of these large-scale pilots, trying to pilot as many use cases as possible. And as I said, it's not only the member states, not only the governments, it's multiple different government departments and government agencies, and also a lot of private sector organizations, which is great to see it, public and private collaboration on these pilots. Now, who will pay for the e-wallet infrastructure? States, citizens, commerce?
Right. Great question. Answer, we don't yet know for sure. The wallet, it's going to be free for citizens, right, basically. Free for citizens. But who pays after that? Nobody really knows. So part of the pilots that are happening, part of the purpose of them is not only to check the technology and the user feedback, but it's to work out where the money is and how it flows. So what you might find is somebody like Jen or somebody like Accenture may have some software that is provided to a bank to verify credentials, etc. And the bank may want to pay for that because they can onboard somebody in 10 seconds and not 10 days. Okay? Issuers may want to provide issuance services because it's much easier and simpler for them to issue a digital credential than a physical one in the post and so on. So the benefit's yet to be seen, but free to citizens. Anything else to add on that? Will you be notified if someone is checking your data?
This is a very, very good question, and I'm glad it's asked, because when we start talking about digital identity wallets and these kind of things, an often worry is this some sort of big brother system? Like, are they going to track with whom I'm sharing my data and what I have? So the answer is no. And the reason why it's no, it's because it's based on decentralized digital identity principles. And what it means, so, we talked about that all of the data is stored with me in my wallet. And every time I share it with a service provider, I need to provide explicit consent. So it never happens behind my back, just blindly without me knowing. As a government or a bank can't just call my wallet and get the data they want. For them to do that, I need to provide explicit consent. And part of that informed consent is knowing what data elements exactly am I sharing, with whom, for how long, for what purpose. So that consent management mechanism will be absolutely critical. And hopefully will assure people that organizations can't just look up the data in their wallet.
Yeah, it's worth adding, actually, that there have been quite a few fights amongst some technical people as they're defining the data protocol, exchange protocols to be used. And one of the protocols, which the guys talked about earlier, is the MDL, Mobile Driving License Protocol, ISO 18013-5/2021. And that has within it, when the data is signed, there was this one here, actually, Mike wanted to. So I think we could probably cover that. But when the data is signed, it's signed with a key that's unique to a particular individual and to that particular credential. And that key can be a correlating, unique identifier for you. So if you share your mobile driving license here, 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 and here, for different purposes, you're essentially sharing a tracking number that is the same. And all of those organizations could collude and go, oh, Andy's flown here and he's bought croissant there and he's bought 40 bottles of gin here, and build up a picture of you. So they're handling that in a way to avoid this correlation. They're handling it by issuing multiple versions of the same credential, each with a different signature on it, which is, for any of cryptographers and designers of technical systems, is massively inelegant and horrible. But that's the way it's been handled now. So there's some real technical stuff under the skin that has to be done to avoid problems with correlation.
And then the next one, will the data be shared by push or by pull and approve? Can we query other citizens to prove show credentials?
Yeah, so two questions there. So you're not going to be have a credential forced upon you, right? There's a two-part process. You get an offer. Would you like this credential? It's very polite. Would you like this credential? Oh, yes, please. Send it to my wallet. You may find that if you have a credential that expires, they might push you an updated version of it. Can we query other citizens? That's a goodie. Can we query other citizens' data? Not yet, but you could, I guess, can you? If the wallet, so you've the wallet, you've got these things. You've got an issuer and you've got a verifier and you've got a wallet. The wallet isn't a verifier, but it could be. Right, it could be. So I think for the police, if they're going to scan your driving license by the side of the road, they'll probably have an app on their phone that lets them do that. It's a short jump to wallet verification.
Yeah, maybe for some where regulation requires for some select services.
Yeah, it'll be a really interesting one. I mean, there's a whole bunch of applications like data and stuff to be used for that. Document verification and integrity. Please, how will it work?
I think you covered that with the previous one.
We kind of
with this deciding.
Well, let's do this one. Will eIDAS be able to replace solutions like DocuSign?
Yeah, great question. DocuSign, I know. PandaDoc. I'm not sure what is PandaDoc. So yes, as we talked, so with your EUDI wallet, you will be able to sign legal documents. It will have the same value as basically providing similar service to what is DocuSign providing. And that does not necessarily mean that companies like DocuSign will disappear, and will be eliminated from the market. It just means that they will have to think, how can they become trusted services providers and integrate the services within the eIDAS 2 ecosystem. Anything to add?
No, I think spot on. I think we do this one.
Okay, yes. I would like to...
Lots of questions. This is great. It's not all the same Accenture lot asking the questions over there.
So verification and
let's talk about the document verification, just so you sort of see how this stuff works. So the key technical advance in recent years has been the ability to package up some digital data and provide it to someone so they can then present it on, and it can be proven where that data came from and that the data hasn't been changed in transit. Okay? Previously, if I gave Kotryna some digital data, she could edit it and change it and then pass it on, and you wouldn't know. Okay? So now there's a way to do this, which involves lots of digital signatures and cryptography. And if anyone was in the quantum crypto stuff earlier on, they'll be learning how important what they were doing around quantum cryptography and how that could be used to hack some of these keys. But that's a little way off yet. So what happens is an issuer, when they issue you with a digital version of this, is they sign it in very specific ways. And those signatures kind of wrap the data like in multiple layers, a bit like an onion. And then you provide it to the person, and those layers stay there, okay? And when the person then offers that data to a verifier, the verifier gets it, and the layers describe where to go to find a public key to verify that data. Okay? And then once they have the public key, they can check it. Now, it's not sort of sci-fi or anything, because on the chip on your passport, you already have this. On the chip, you've got a bunch of data that's signed by your passport office, and there's a pointer to where to go to get the public key to verify that data is authentic. That's how it works. It's pretty much very well proven tech. What's your favorite use?
Great question.
Oh, sorry. What's your favorite use?
Well, we can both answer this question. I'm gonna, link back to my presentation. Travel, probably. I love connecting visas and stamps in my passport. I love it, but I would like that to be almost like a sentimental piece that I could, look back to while I travel. I would love to be legally enabled to travel with a physical document and forget the times when being afraid of forgetting passport at home before going to the airport.
Yeah, I mean, we'd all pay to walk straight into the airport, onto the plane, and walk straight out without having to do anything, right? No use passport control or customs or anything like that. So that is a goodie, but there's going to be so many, just all the hassles of things like capture and logging in and remembering accounts and passwords and all that. I've just got a 0000 time left thing. It's now negative, but now have we got time for one more, or should we just no? We're under strict control.
You can come to us.
Oh, we can.
Yeah, come to us for a.
We'll be here if anyone wants to chat about some of the other ones. But thanks for all the really good questions.
You.
Epic. Thank you.